My name is Brookelyn Howenstine, and this is my real story. My mom had me when she was 17, and so they were really young. When we lived at the lake, my mom started going to church after my parents were married. I don't know, just kind of got into the wrong crowd. I wanted to know why not to have sex before marriage and stuff like that, because clearly they had sex before marriage and had me, but they just really couldn't give me a good enough reason, because everyone I knew was doing those kind of things. A lot of times it was, well, because we said so, or the Bible says not to. At that point, that just wasn't, good enough for me. I had a lot of pressure in my household, I think. Pressure like being great at academics, being great at sports, being just like a good church girl. My brother and sister, they'd look at me as like the good one, and they'd compare me to them a lot. As I got older, that pressure, it was just so much that I just basically at one point just kind of broke and didn't want any of it, and just completely started going the other way. I didn't want to go to church very much anymore because I couldn't go to my friend's house on Saturday nights because I had to go to church. I had already been drinking and smoking weed and doing pills at that point. I actually started smoking cigarettes and weed with people from church. Everyone always told me how bad it was, and I didn't think it was bad, and so I was like, well, everyone says all these other things are bad, so I'm just gonna try all these other things. My parents were already kind of they've always kind of fought, here and there, but it was always on the outside, wherever we would go, we looked perfect. It would have to be a perfect looking family, even though at home it was not perfect. So then my dad got Crohn's when I was a junior. He spent months in the hospital. It was really hard for me to see my dad like that, and so I started using a lot more then. Then he got out, and I started stealing his pain medicine, and they never noticed until maybe a year later. My dad was sick, my parents were still fighting. Then after my dad started getting better, that's when they got divorced. It wasn't even a year later. After he told me that, it was just I just didn't care about anything anymore. My dad ended up moving out of the house, and I moved out too. I started using meth around 18 or 19, and at that point, I'd been on other stuff too, but meth just grabbed a hold of me. It took everything. I got to the point where I couldn't function without it. I knew I didn't want to do this anymore, but I didn't know how not to. My whole body was shutting down. So it was it took about 6 months from the time that my dad first said, hey, listen, I want you to look at this life challenge place and try to get help. And I was absolutely no way I was going there. Didn't want anything to do with it. And in that 6 months, that's kind of when I feel God was allowing things to happen to me in order to get me from this place where I'm doing fine and meth is my friend type thing, I'm having fun doing this, to this is the worst nightmare, this is hell, I want out. You give so much of yourself for drugs, you give, you're so dedicated to it, you stop talking to your friends and to your family, your whole life gets wrapped up in just this drug. There's things I've done for this drug, there's so much shame and stuff that just comes with that too, and I think that all of that just keeps piling itself on, and it's you want to escape this reality that you've even created, because now you have all this shame that you're dragging because of the drug, and so now you want to escape that with the drug. It just keeps adding on to itself. I did this to myself. I knew God, I grew up in the church, I knew who he was, I chose this life, and so because I chose this, why would he allow me to have a better life? I got myself here. I should be able to get myself out, and if I can't, then this is all my fault. I know I remember feeling God at that moment, but it's just I still turned away from him. But I did start reading my Bible. I remember I read Psalm 73, and it really struck me. I knew him from a child, but I wasn't following it. I remember actually I had went down to Florida to my dad's house, and I spent some good quality time with my dad that I hadn't had in a long time, and it just really made me want to just change and just be done with this. Being on my knees and just crying out to God, telling him that I didn't want this anymore, and that I didn't want to live like this anymore. Whatever he wanted me to do, that I would. And at that point, I felt that he wanted me to go to Life Challenge. I was just very drawn to my Bible, and I was drawn to start to praying. My best friend, actually, Ruthie, got put into jail before I went to Life Challenge, and I think that helped me a lot. It actually took me 2 weeks after that in order to quit at a dope house, within these 2 weeks, and there was this dog that I just loved, and I was sitting there getting high, and this dog was like in my lap, like nudging it out of like my hands and stuff, and I just felt like that was God completely, like, what are you doing? Then I agreed to go up to Life Challenge. My dad was up here, and ended up, I had a bottle of like rum in my freezer, and I ended up drinking so much of it because like my dad was around, so I didn't want to use it in front of him, but I couldn't be sober either. I ended up not packing. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was trashed, and I called Life Challenge. I was supposed to be there at like 8 o'clock in the morning. It's 2 hours away, and I was like, listen, I'm not coming in, I'm drunk, I haven't packed yet. And then I called my mom, I was like, I'm not going there, and she called me, she's like, I already took off work, you're going, like, we're taking you there. Have your dad help you pack. So I woke him up, he helped me pack, and then we went up there, and it was totally God that got me there, because once I got there and like I realized even where I was and like what was happening to me, I was not doing okay. They took everything from me. They took all my clothes away, they were inappropriate. They took all my makeup. They took everything from me. I had no idea where I was. I was just like, I do not want to be here. Like, what did I just do? They had forgotten to make me sign some papers, basically saying that the $700 was non-refundable. I was like, I'm not signing this. I want my $700 back, and I'm leaving. I was cussing people out, telling them I wasn't staying here. I wanted my money, and I'm gone. Finally, they called my dad, and my dad tried talking me down. No one's coming to get you. You don't know where you are. You're staying there. It's my money. You're not taking it. Sign the papers. Give him the money. So finally, he talked me into it. I signed it. There I was, stuck in that place, and I hated it. I hated every moment of it. Around that time, I told God, like, listen, like, if you really need me to be here, because I'd fought it so much, and I was like, if you really need me to be here, like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna fight it one more time, and if you really need me to be here, no matter what I do, you need to keep me here. And I did. We were at this conference, and this woman, and I was praying, and honestly, like, I started speaking in tongues, and I just remember I just was bawling, and I was just going back and forth from speaking to God, and then just saying thank you, because I knew he had saved me so much, and like I had felt his love so much. And at that time, I had been just like reading my Bible and just praying a lot. I just remember just feeling his love so much, like just like more than I ever have before. And like that was so crazy for me, because like I guess like I'd always been searching for love, but I never knew really what love was. And so like just like feeling the love of God and feeling like he did love me no matter like what I had been through and like what I had done, that was really life-changing to me. And it's crazy because I stood in the same position for like 15 minutes longer than I would have, because I felt these hands on my back and I thought someone was praying for me, and finally I turned around and there was no one there. That was really powerful for me, but it was really crazy at the same time. I was just reading my Bible and just couldn't put it down. I didn't have to earn his love. I remember when I first got there, I wrote like, if there's one thing that I need to remember for the rest of my life, it's that I absolutely need God. I think God really showed me back then like that he does want to be in the little things. Like it's not that like I only can come to him in these big moments, but he wants me to be in the little things. I think there's just so many things that like we don't think that we need to bother God with, but he wants to be in everything. I had been like out in this world, like when I was addicted to drugs, all of my relationships were like, what can I get from you, or what can you get from me? If you're gonna do something for me, like that means you expect something in return. And that's just the way like I had learned life was, having people there just like to love me and to serve me and not expect me to do anything. It just was mind-boggling at first. I knew I deserved no kindness. I knew I didn't deserve anything, and just to then receive that, nothing I could have done to get myself out of the situation I was in. I tried doing it on my own. And so just the fact that he came and loved me and helped me when I wasn't deserving of it. Like I feel like God saved me twice. Like he saved me on the cross, but he also saved me like from the life that I chose. There's been so many times I've focused more on what my plans are for the future that I forget to focus on like where he wants me to be now and wants me to work on now. I don't know what he has for me for the future. My biggest thing is just to know and make sure that I'm always telling God yes, no matter what he calls me to. But honestly, like I'm just called to stay in a relationship with him.